Hi, my name's Kevin Allen, and welcome to KAP TV. Today's a special day for me because I've got someone with me who I absolutely adore. And it's often been said, I used to hear this when I was a kid, that all roads lead to Rome. And in many ways, in the last several times we've been together, we've been talking about one very important thing: decision making. We've talked about the hidden agenda. We've talked about the notion that behind every decision is an emotional, unspoken desire. And I thought, well, you know what? There's no one I know who knows more about this subject. In fact, has now written a wonderful book called Decide than David Wethey, who's my dear friend. And it is my absolute pleasure to introduce you not only this wonderful man, but a dear friend. David, welcome.
Kevin, thank you very much.
Well, David, you're a pretty busy guy. I mean, where did you find the time and why did you write this book?
I was struck by the remarkable contrast of lots and lots and lots and lots of books on leadership. And candidly, very few people ever get to lead anything much. Everybody in the world has to make decisions.
But isn't it remarkable that leadership, I mean, at the end of the day, the fundamental purpose or outcome of great leadership is decision making, and yet there's no literature on it.
It's true, you know, but people don't say that.
No.
I think because of the military heritage, an awful lot, and you know, I know we're a long way away from the Second World War, which was defining in both America and Britain, but I still think that leadership does go back to generals and being inspirational and motivational and everything, rather more than just to focus on decision making.
Without a doubt. It's so funny that you don't often think of decision making. Like you said earlier, you talk of leadership, but are there components or a process? Can you break down the notion of decision making in some way?
Yes, there is a framework. We'll come to that. But one fundamental difference is between decision making and choosing. Choosing is a subset of decision making, but it's very different. Decision making is very largely open-ended. Choosing is very focused, and all the evidence from neurology, psychology, and everything else says that in choosing, we're eliminating, and coming down to a situation where actually autopilot takes over.
As you know, I believe very strongly in the notion of the hidden agenda and that sort of emotional core of a decision. But I know you talk a great deal about the sort of balance of the rational and emotional in decision making. Could you talk a little bit about that?
There is a seminal book written by a guy called Antonio Damasio, which is called Descartes' Error. And Descartes has been taken by modern psychologists and philosophers to be the epitome of the rational school. Everything is logical, everything can be explained in rational terms. And Damasio wrote a very learned and quite difficult to penetrate book called Descartes' Error, which said that's not true. It's not how the brain works. And poor old Descartes, he didn't have access to neurology, so why would he know? He had no internet, didn't know a neurologist because there weren't any.
No, indeed.
So he probably thought that because he had a good brain, he was using it all the time. So Damasio exploded that, and once he'd done that, and that's sort of 80s, I think Damasio wrote that, then modern philosophers, writers, psychologists have come up with good stuff. There's a very, very clever American called Jonah Lehrer, who's written a whole series of books in this area. And that's the most readable explanation of why rational thought isn't the only explanation. In the book, I'm extremely keen on starting the process rationally and using your conscious brain as much as you possibly can, because why not?
I'm sure a lot of people who will be listening to this and also when they read your book are going to want to know, how can I be a better decision maker, particularly people coming up in the business. Are there a couple of tips or things you can say, these are the 3 or 4 things that can absolutely make you a better decision maker?
The thing I learned writing the book, which was a complete surprise to me, is that the best decision makers are people who've had dreams and followed them. I would never have known that. I interviewed some successful people because I thought they would be really good copy in terms of trying to analyse how they've made decisions in their lives, how they've turned out, what technique they used and everything else. And you know what? I always start with people's background, where they come from, where did you spend your childhood?
Yes.
At least half the really successful people I interviewed had had some experience, some dream, some pivotal moment in their lives, often before they were 10.
Gosh.
And if you follow these people's lives through, They just got used to making decisions early. And once you get used to making decisions, you'll carry on making decisions.
I've been told that there's a notion in Silicon Valley where the idea is you develop a piece of software, you run it, and it blows up in your face. And that's a part of this good decision making. It's essentially that failure is a good thing. Can you talk a little bit about that notion in business?
No less authority than Mark Pritchard, who's the current CMO of Procter & Gamble, made a speech 10 days ago in London where he said that you've got to learn and do. Mm-hmm. You've got to do and learn. You've got to try things, and you've got to accept that some of the things you try won't work out. Mm. Now, I think virtually the whole of business school teaching could be changed by adopting that philosophy.
Now, David, I know you're a terrific writer because I've read an awful lot of your work, but I don't think too many people know that you're a pretty good poet, too. Could you share a little piece you wrote about someone you admire for us?
De Bono, the Maltese eagle. A small tribute to a philosopher with a mighty wingspan. I've embarked on a serious mission to raise the humble decision from just one of the things we can to a towering achievement for man. The prophet who showed me the way wore hats, but none of them grey. He's the thinking man's thinker from Malta, De Bono, the lateral exhorter. Shoemaker gave us the rules, and Belbin told us the roles. But De Bono allowed us to learn by playing each role in turn, where the red hat for passion and the black one for trashin'. Yellow hat says you're sunny, and green that you're creative and funny. But the cleverest hats are the blue and the white. White hat means you only say what's right. No editor's gloss on conversation, just unvarnished truth and information. Blue is the smartest hat of all. You're the conductor in the hall, fusing the sounds the hats are making by thinking, solving, decision-making.
Thank you, David. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for spending time with me. It's always a pleasure, and I wish you every good wish. I know the book is going to be brilliant. People are going to love it.
Buy the book.
Buy the will. That I will. Now, where can
you won't have to buy it.
Now, where can they find you? Because you have one of the largest blogs of people that I know. Tell us where we can find you.
You can find me on makingbetterdecisonsbetter.com.
Great.
And if you go on the Amazon site and Google David Wethey, you can pre-order the book.
Well, thank you very much for watching. It's Kevin Allen, KAP TV. Bye for now.